I'm happy to talk in front of you today about our project MaterialLoop. From my point of view, a very good example for collaboration along the automotive value chain. And in the course of the presentation, I may also talk a little bit about strategy and the exciting transformation our industry is going through at the moment. Maybe first a few introductory words. At Audi, we are really convinced that climate change is the very greatest threat of our time to our planet and everyone on it, and that the transition to a more sustainable way of doing business at the same time is one of the biggest challenges we have to deal with. Therefore, we put decarbonization as our priority number one. Electrification of our product portfolio really is the most effective and efficient lever in this challenge. But at the same time, our responsibility as a company does not end with the production of electric vehicles. There are additional sustainability questions we need to securely answer. On a planet with limited resources, another question is around the more efficient use of resources in the future, defining our second focus area, circular economy, consequently playing a significant role for Audi's sustainability strategy or strategy in general. We therefore evaluate and follow diverse approaches for implementing closed-loop concepts along the entire automotive value chain, from the development and material procurement to the production and use, marketing and recycling. We take into account the entire value chain. Closed material loops are where the MaterialLoop project comes into play. With the help of the project, we want to gain broad insights and to identify further room for improvements, always challenging the status quo. At its core, it's about the state of the art in recycling, securing secondary materials, and avoiding downcycling. We would also like to be able to draw conclusions about our product design, for example, when it comes to the selection of materials, the material composition, or modularity, so that future vehicle generations are even easier yet cost efficient to recycle or refurbish. So especially our procurement department plays a key role for implementing a circular economy. Why? Because it's the direct contact for over 14,000 different business partners around the world in over 60 countries. This is precisely the leverage we want to use together with our business partners and the best possible effect in terms of sustainability. Because one thing we can with certainty is that circular economy is based on collaboration along the entire value chain. That's for sure. The sustainability strategy of Audi procurement consists of three main pillars. So it's people, environment, and innovation. The circular economy, in particular the focus on reduce, reuse, and recycling along the supply chain, plays a key role in this context. Circular economy not only pays off in terms of the environment, but also has positive impact on the other pillars of our sustainability strategy. Think about getting more resilient or also having more transparency along the value chain. So at Audi, we understand the circular economy to mean the responsible use of resources. We want to really preserve the value of our products and materials as long as possible. The focus here is on the durability, also the repairability and recyclability of our products. But for sure also on totally new business models. Think, for example, about mobility as a service or long-term leasing concepts. So the resources on our planet are finite. That's why we need some kind of hotspot approach, and that's what you see here. In the first step, we really focus on closing the loops for steel, aluminum, battery materials, polymers, and glass. So maybe I have to explain the basic problem we have today. Up to now, very few of the materials we use for the production of a new car consists of materials that we recovered from old vehicles. So most of the material is virgin material, and this is exactly the challenge we want to tackle. So Audi really wants to change this situation by reusing secondary materials for the production of new vehicles in the future. So also really from a business case perspective, our strategy is focusing on the production of battery electric vehicles, and the resources that we need for the production of batteries are dependent on international supply chains that are really tricky to manage, and so it's also a risk managing factor where we say by reusing battery materials and using them for the production of new batteries, we get more resilient and less dependent on other markets. If you think about our today's business model, I think you all know that it's based fundamentally in terms of scope of action and added value on the principles of a linear economic model. Vehicles are developed and produced, delivered to the customers and disposed of at the end of life. And in the past, separate industries have generally built up in the past around recycling and disposal, but so far there is no direct connection between the automotive industry and the recycling industry in the narrow sense, especially when it comes to joint business models or closed material loops that we do not see in the extent we wish at the moment. So in the future, we really would like to see some cross-industry initiatives that really try to improve the situation in this context so that we get more closed-loop concepts in automotive. But I have to say that the inevitable first step to realize a broad range of circular business models in the automotive industry from an OEM point of view is increased control of parts and material flows. So it's also important that we distinguish between post-industrial materials, so that's material that's, for example, offcuts of our production, like the press shop, that has never been used in the vehicles before, and also on post-consumer sources that have been used in cars already. And our vision is to steadily increase the share of post-consumer automotive materials in our new cars, so that in the future the biggest proportion of the materials we need for the production of a new car is post-consumer material, so that we really close our loop in automotive and are not dependent on on pre-consumer material, because from our point of view we only tackle the problem when we focus on post-consumer material. Other things are, from our point of view, some kind of more greenwashing. So really a good example of this, what I explained before, is our plastic loop project. You can also get some additional information here at our booth. So where we say in the new Q8 e-tron, Audi for the first time is installing plastic seat covers for seatbelt buckles, which were produced from mixed automotive plastics waste by a chemical recycling process. Also, we focus for sure on the life cycle assessment. That's really we look at the problem from every direction, but we can say that in this case, chemical recycling is also efficient enough to be used in serious production. So in this way, plastic components also with a high quality requirement also can be produced from recycled materials in the future. That has not been possible in the past, so that's also a huge win for us. And also a good example for cross-industry cooperation, because you can see here that we work together with some partners like Lionel Bazell or also SynCycle. Another good example is also seen here at the booth. It's the glass loop project. Today, car windshields that cannot be longer used or cannot longer be repaired in the car shops have been reprocessed into, for example, beverage bottles or insulation materials, for example. So that was some kind of downcycling, and together with our partners, we were able to set up a multi-stage process in which, for the first time, we really had the chance to use old card glazing to produce new vehicle windows. It's also a huge improvement at the moment. So these are just two examples that shows how really Audi intends to recycle materials in the future, always focusing on material loops. What exactly is the material loop project about? Here's another illustration for the glass loop project I mentioned before, where you can see that we work together with the partners like Reiling, Saint-Gobain, and that we could at the end create a really closed loop that's also has been implemented already in series production, so that for the new cars we could use old material. And here now we want to focus on really the material loop project I mentioned before. So what is the problem? I mentioned it before. Until now, the life cycle of a car has tended to come to a rather abrupt end, scrapping to be precise, and only a small percentage of the old cars or the materials out of the old cars could be used to produce new cars. And this is really what we want to change together with our partners in this project, that we really increase this share. And we have the vision to really create one of the most sustainable processes for end-of-life vehicle recycling in automotive, also with joint business models in the future. Maybe the project that was already created 2021 and has been in implementation since October 2022 has several goals. I just mentioned a few of them. Together with our partners, in the first step, we dismantled 100 Audi vehicles, old Audi vehicles, and the goal was to ensure that the highest possible proportion of the materials out of these vehicles could be used for the Audi production again via our supply chain. In doing so, we placed also particular emphasis on avoiding downcycling. This was really our biggest goal in this challenge. And in addition to the closed loop recycling, we also focused on design for recycling, that we get some information for our design and development process. This was also one of the main goals of this project. So from the beginning of the project, it was clear to us that such a project cannot be managed alone. So we wanted to collaborate with different partners, and we are particularly proud that all the 15 partners we asked to join in this project really also are now part of this project. As you can see here, we all met each other in Ingolstadt for the start of this project, and we are also focusing on a second step where we then want to more focus on business models, not only on the technical feasibility in general. So in order to really close the loop for end-of-life vehicles, all the partners had to work hand in hand. Again, you can here see the different material streams we focused on: glass, polymers, aluminum, steel, and then there were some very important process steps like dismantling, shredding, sorting, and then where the sorted materials were sent to the different material suppliers that then processed them again so that we could use these materials for production of new vehicles then. So here you can see like the overall project overview. It shows the entire life cycle of our vehicle. So from production to the use phase or the utilization phase, but at some time you really have the case that cars are not used anymore, and then the material loop process begins, where we say, okay, together with our partner TSR, for example, we focus on shredding and then sorting, and again then the material suppliers come into play, like for example Novelis and Lionel Basel, that then reproduce the materials for new parts. So the first step was dismantling. As I said, we first focus on draining, for example, the cars and so on and so forth, and then it's followed by a targeted dismantling, where we said, okay, we have in total 3 categories. Category number 1 is which components are suitable for reuse, for example, in a used car, for example, in a used parts market. And then category 2, which components are easy to dismantle to then, therefore that they can be recycled in a more sustainable way, more specific. And we had a 3rd category, materials that we had to sort out before because they may interfere the downstream process, so that we then do not have that much problems in the further steps. And for example, for sure, we also, like I said, always talk to our partners and ask them if there's anything we can use as information for our development of new cars, so any knowledge that they gained during this process. So then in a second step, that involves shredding, like with the partners, as I mentioned before, HKS and TSR. They really used latest technologies so that we then have the highest possible grade of materials that the partners in a 3rd step, as I mentioned before, could use again, so that we can use them in serious production. And we already had some preliminary results that we can show here. We can say that a significant proportion of the metals that are going into the process can be reused again after this recycling process. As you can see here, steel is more than 85%, aluminum more than 60%, that can be used for the production of a new car. And in addition to the focus on the recycling rate that we wanted to show, we could also use some materials that we gained out of this process for really producing, as I said here, over 15,000 Audi A4 inner door panels. So with the post-consumer automotive recycling content about 12%. So that's also some improvement compared to the status quo. So, and the 3rd point is that we're also able to open another chapter with a focus on a guideline that is also available to our partners when it comes to the use of polymers in the future. So how can you improve recycling already in the development process? Yeah, and that's basically it. That's an overview about our MaterialLoop project, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.